Welcome back to the Bucher's Batch of Boys Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am joined, as always, again by Kyle. Kyle, what's going on?
What's going on? Good to have baseball back.
Kyle has made a lot of noise in the last couple of days of this league. He's also making noise with Mark. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, fellas. Excited to be here.
It made sense probably to have you on, Mark. You've had a pretty big last 72 hours or so.
Yeah, personally and fantasy baseball wise, I'd say so.
Definitely more personally, probably. But after the draft, there were a lot of criticisms. People said you didn't do a good job. You had been graded by some of the haters as the worst draft. But then you made the move. Now you're reviewed unanimously as the best team in the league. It's not worth playing. What do you say to those haters?
Yeah, it's not worth playing. Just quit now. Give me the trophy. Give me the money. See you guys next February. That's the message. Give up.
It looks like they already have. I saw Griffin was selling an expensive Bichette, punting the next year. It made sense.
It's very Griffin-like. He wants to finish in third, fourth, fifth for the fourth, fifth year in a row. That's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna be arrogant and cocky this year because I think I have the team to back it up.
I like hockey, Mark. This is fun.
Yeah, Griffin's a coward. When the judge speaks, Griffin just listens.
Dude, it's so funny. Like Mark said, I mean, Griffin is basically the most tan guy I've ever met because that dude loves finishing with bronze. Let's get to well, before we start doing the trades and the draft breakdown, Mark, you are with us, though, pre-blockbuster deal with Kyle, which we will get to in detail. How did you actually feel about your draft? How did you feel about yourself coming in? Do you think the power rankings the four of us put out were pretty fair? Did you feel like we underrated you, overrated you? Do you have power rankings you want to share? Tell us everything you want to get out.
Yeah, so I'd say being completely transparent, I only listened to the last episode to hear about myself.
That's why you asked for the timestamp.
That's why I asked for the
But I very
timestamp.
kindly did provide you. That was crazy. Nice of you.
And Mark, who was high on you of the
Kyle
group?
was high on me,
Oh.
as he should be.
Kyle's an insider trading info. Kyle's
Yeah.
goddamn Nancy Pelosi over here.
Hey.
He knew what he was valuing at the right time. Yeah, I mean, I thought the power rankings going into the draft were fair, being eighth, or if I recall correctly, Kyle, you had me at six or something like that. I kind of always view the guys who are like eight, seven, six, maybe even whoever's ranked ninth as like if they have a good draft and they're smart during the season, they have a potential to finish in the money. So I was like, yeah, if I do well, I think that's a pretty fair ranking going in. I really liked my draft. You guys kind of touched on it in the last episode, but I thought my starters were not elite, but as good as they could be without being elite going into it between Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, Chris Sanchez, Chase Burns, and Musgrove, even though he was hurt. So the focus in the draft was to buy as many bats as possible, hopefully getting an elite one and then filling out the positions that I needed. In terms of specific picks, loved $7 Adley, the $26 Altuve. Thought I spent a little too much on Randy or Rosarena in hindsight at 56 because then Luis Robert and Brian Reynolds went for less than that combined. So obviously, like if I'd known that, I would have liked to have bought those two instead of one Robert. Kyle, hand up, stealing Lawler from you. You need to be a little bit mad at Nick because he may have let it slip. That could be a potential target of yours towards the end of the
I
draft.
wasn't the target of Kyle's. I said he was a target of mine, but I was no longer able to draft any hitters.
That's also true.
Then the whole drafting was like, I've never heard of Jordan Lawler. Who was that?
It's funny. He probably was the number one guy on my list who I didn't get. I mean, guys like New Nick, they made it so easy on me. I mean, I just got everyone I wanted. It was so easy. So sorry.
Somebody I want to.
But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with my draft leaving on Saturday night. Felt like I had pushed myself up a little bit in the power rankings that you guys had done, and then obviously the big transaction on Sunday, I felt like has pushed my team even further. Somewhere in the top three as of right now.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable to think. I think if you look at the fan tracks projections, you're either one or two,
Yep.
depending on whose lineup has what active and what not active. It seems like it changes. I looked at it like yesterday and then again earlier today, like an hour before this, and I think you went from first to second to first again. So a
Yep.
lot of moves happening, I guess. I think it's just active players. I don't know what it's basing it on, to be honest.
Yeah, it's if you have a legal lineup and then who you have active and like because I moved the pitchers around and changed some of the hitters, and then after you made a trade, it also bumped you up to one, but then moved me back to one. So we'll see if the projections are right at the end of the year, but hopefully we'll have a nice little battle.
I mean,
We're the up there.
if you can lock in Judge, Schwarber, and just make Chandler Simpson a thing, you're kind of like melding three players together. They're so good. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, if you can lock in that power speed, you've got one of the best balanced teams, I think, Mark. And then all of your ancillary players, like you mentioned, Randy, he's a dual threat. And
Yep.
then your deep pitching that maybe people shrugged at initially. Now you have two top aces, I'd say. So yeah, it's pretty damn deep.
Yeah,
And,
you might
and
have the best pitching.
if yeah, I think you might. And if you have a problem at relief, wouldn't you pick that to be your problem? You know what I mean? That's an easy problem to solve. If you don't have like
Yeah.
your favorite closer, that's probably your weakness, right?
Yeah, reliever is definitely my weakness. And in this league, pretty much since I've been in it back in the ESPN days, I was always like strong relievers, decent offense, figure out the pitching. Because I think personally, I overvalued bad starters, like guys who would be in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, thinking, oh, they're going to finish the year in the top 12 or top 24 just based on nothing. So tried to switch it up this year and say, let's get as many good, keepable starters as possible and figure out the relievers after the fact. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be teams going into May and June who are out of it, who have the Devin Williams or the David Bednars that are like, all right, let's sell off and get assets going into next year. So the relievers are definitely bad, but we'll figure that out as we go. Just churn and burn until I find a couple guys who can stay somewhat stable in their jobs.
I mean,
But it's
Mark,
funny, Kyle, you mentioned Chandler Simpson. You gave him to me last year as well in one of our transactions. So really, I owe all of my luck and team success to Kyle this year because I've just been picking pieces off of his roster for the last 3 years, honestly.
hey, I mean, I'm rooting for you, Mark. And I mean, who needs Bednar when you already have Duvall? I mean, Duvall might be the guy. You never know. I mean, I'm half joking. And
I mean,
then
I was just trying to follow the Kyle method of get as many guys who go on night one or the overseas series as possible, and maybe get
smart.
a couple cheap strikeouts or a win or a save, and then cut them and move on. So
That's a good strategy.
hopefully Duvall pitches tomorrow night against the Giants, but we'll see.
And then one other note, I know we have a lot to cover, but Mark, you mentioned those pitchers in the glob that, just they're wastes, right? Like maybe they're decent replacement value, but why go after them? I'm just curious. Do you think like Michael Waka or do you think Seth Lugo, would they fit into that category, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Yeah,
Interesting. Those feel like markups to me.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not really sure what we're driving at there, but I'd say they fit in the glob.
Cool.
Perfect. No need to elaborate any further. You guys want to do trades first, since we have to probably discuss that the most?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. Kyle, do you want to share it? You want me to pull it up?
Either or. It'll take
I've
me
got fan tracks
just a
open. Give
couple
me one second.
seconds.
Although you actually, oh no, this is mine. I can share it. I'll do it because on yours you'll have to be the one who shares. You don't let me share.
Thanks.
All right. Let me know if you guys can see this in a sec.
Just your beautiful face.
Yeah. What else do you need to see?
Hauntingly sweet.
Okay. You can see it now, probably, right?
Yep,
Yep.
we're good.
All right. So let's start where it all began. Post draft night. I guess post draft day, 12 hours later, you get a little one for oneer here. It's Zach and Brendan, two of the consensus from the power ranks, top half of the league teams. depending on what order. Brandon Lowe for Torque, though. Second baseman, first baseman. Tiger, Pirate. Kyle, what do you think? You're not with us last time. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I see the upside on Torkelson's power and his age, but I'll give the crown to Zach on this one. I think Brandon Lau is always underrated. The counting stats, maybe they won't be there with Pittsburgh. It could be kind of an odd and maybe tough team to play for this year. Who knows? But yeah, I like Lau in this case. I think he is the safer pick between the two, and I think he actually will hit for more power than Torque this year.
Mark, where land you?
Yeah, I don't want to copy Kyle, but I do think I like the Lao side a little bit more. I know Torkelson started last year super hot, if I'm not mistaken, and then just kind of faded out as the year went on. Still hit 30 home runs, so the power is there. I think Kyle did raise a good point that the counting stats, maybe the runs and the RBIs may not be as high for Lau in Pittsburgh, but if he stays healthy, there's still minimum 30 home runs there. I think it's defensible on either side because if I recall, the trade block changes that they both made, or at least Brendan made, was that he was looking for a second baseman, or he was looking for a first baseman. So uh, 55-45 Lau side, but no major issues anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good trade. Like you just said, I think Brendan definitely needed a first baseman. He had a lot of good second basemen, a lot of useful ones, but too many to play probably. I probably generally would slightly go Torque actually, so it's interesting you guys don't think so, but I think it's like a 55-45 kind of deal. I know Loud also goes earlier in NFBC the last week or so. I mean, the consensus among sharps is with you guys. I just kind of think it's probably smallly likely that he takes a slight step forward. It's probably slightly likely Lau could be hurt because he's had injury problems in the past, but it's kind of just picking nits there. I kind of think neither offense is special. I mean, the Tigers are a better team for sure, but I think the Pirates are like a fringy 500-ish team. But if you look at the Tigers though, besides Riley Green, who's definitely significantly above average, you have Kerry Carpenter, who's good against righties. You have Glaber, who I think is an above average hitter. Magana,
Baymax's going to get on base. He's going to do his thing.
Yeah, McGonagall.
I was just saying K-Mac's going to get on base. He's going to do his
yeah, hopefully
thing.
Magana was good. Hopefully
Yeah.
Magana was good. But I just mean like there's no amazing second player really, offensively exclusively. Whereas on the Pirates, like Lau helps. I think Reynolds is fine. Ozuna's fine. They have a lot of just fine. Hearn's fine. I think they're both kind of middling, below average offenses. We'll see. Neither one's a good hit. Pretty fair trade. You guys have anything else on that one? You want to move up and tackle the next one for one? A little family incestuous trade here.
Yeah.
Raymond said, please, Uncle Charlie, help me. Please, Uncle. I have all this Giancarlo, who's apparently Italian, and I really need Manzardo. Bark, tell us why they did it.
Um, I don't know. They just wanted to have a little family bonding moment. I know Ray on the trade block again was also looking for a first baseman. I I'm torn. I think I would rather have Stanton, but he just scares me so much this year. He literally can't open a water bottle apparently with his elbow
What
injury.
chips?
Or a bag of chips, that's what it was. Thank you. So I mean, I know he hit 24, 25 home runs in 77 games last year and hit almost 280, but I find it hard to believe he's going to replicate that over a full season, even if he is going in healthy. So I think I'd still take Stanton, but it scares me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I
Kyle,
think
pretty
I,
fair.
I think it's perfectly even. It's just two big Irish guys. They look the same. They
Of
play the
course.
same.
Not like
Ray and
those are good
Charlie?
uncle.
Um, Real answer, I don't understand the Stanton hype this year. I get what he did last year. I think he's a mirage. I think he is hurt. He's old. I don't think he can turn into 2025 again. I think I mean, he was undrafted, what, the previous 2 years, I think. I think Manzardo all the way. Manzardo's $6, so the keeper value isn't necessarily incredible because, you keep him one more year, he's already a kind of middle cost guy. So it's an expensive option, but it's like an option, right? So Manzardo for sure. Um, I think they're both potentially droppable this year. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Manzardo, like Torque, it's kind of the same guy almost. I feel like actually, I don't remember if either one was drafted or they were both like early pickups last year. I feel like I lumped them and Ben Rice together in my mind as far as guys where I had too many first basemen last year, couldn't pick up the hot young things in the waiver wire in April, and then they just became pretty useful all year. But I think I would prefer Manzardo just in that the Guardians will play him every day, help the middle lineup. Probably a chance he could step forward, whereas Stanton was so good last year on a per like plate appearance basis. I could see him not producing, especially in a better lineup. But I do fear he could get hurt. I do fear Manzardo could get 10%, 20% better and be okay. As long as they're playing each day, you probably would take Stanton day to day, but I think it's more likely he gets hurt. He won't play against lefties. Manzardo could be getting a little bit better. I think it makes sense because, again, first base need included in this. I see why they did the trade, but I'd probably also take Manzardo. I don't feel quite as strong as I think Kyle does, but I'm kind of on that side of it. Okay. Damn. What happened next? That's weird. We have all these cute little one for ones, and then two randos just decided to fuck up the whole league. All right, let's go through it. 4 for 3 here.
Why don't you start?
I will go first. I'm not either of you. Chase Burns, Royce Lewis, and Nick Kurtz for Aaron Judge, Yamamoto, Tyler Glasnow, and Corey Seager. Holy shit. This is like up there with the Carroll for Judge and Soto trade. I mean, I can't think of too many other trades in the last 3 or 4 years, especially who are legitimately, I don't know, like going to change this entire season. Like we were saying to you, Mark, I don't think anybody on the pod, and you probably agreed with us, it sounds like you didn't think you were a contender. You're
No.
definitely a contender now, if
yeah,
not the
definitely. You're one of the favorites.
You are either the favorite or one of the top couple favorites. It's crazy. So just going through it here, let's start with the Kurtz side. I think it's wild because Kurtz, to me, I don't think he has even the second or third most surplus value among keepers when you look at the calculators. But the reality is, getting a first baseman, a young hitter, tons of prospect pedigree. To me, if I was picking, Kurtz is probably, when the year started, my favorite surplus value keeper. The calculators are always going to tell you it's a pitcher. They're always going to say it's someone like that. And I understand year to year it probably is. But Kurtz is so safe. He strikes out a lot. So what? He's a great prospect. He's hitting in a bandbox. There's so many reasons for the next 6 years he will be super useful. And that is crazy valuable. He is probably the best hitter keeper in the entire league and therefore the best keeper in the league, I think. Royce is someone I like. I do like Royce. And Chase Burns has a ton of upside too. So a lot was given up here. I mean, Chase Burns, Kyle noted in his Star Wars power rankings, could be a top 10 starter. I'm not quite as bullish as that, but I do think there's a ton of reason to think he could be really good, if not this year, sometime soon. He has so much swing and miss stuff, so much ability to get better, I think, too, on top of the middling stats he put up last year. I love him. Crazy, though. I mean, Seager at shortstop in our league. Super, super valuable in his own right. OPS darling. He could get hurt. I get it. He's old. Rangers is not a great place to hit. Whatever. This dude is an MVP caliber hitter when he's healthy. Super valuable. Glass now. Not quite the Seager of pitchers, but injury prone. Pretty good when he pitches, though. We'll see. He seems healthy right now. That's a really helpful, I don't know, for an already pretty good pitching staff Mark has, 3-ish starter. I don't know where you guys want to rank him. 20, 30-ish.
Yeah.
Yamamoto is somewhere between SP4 and SP like 8. That is crazy. And might I add too, if you just go off the calculator on keeper value, like a top 12 to 15 keeper in the league. Again, I would not care about pitchers the same way in a long-term view, just the way I would want to build my team. You guys are nodding, so hopefully that means you agree with me. I don't know. Yamamoto is pretty valuable, though. I mean, if Yamamoto doesn't break and fall apart, you've got Yamamoto probably for a few years, too. On top of the fact you have a top SP1 this year added to your deep team. And then you add Aaron Judge, who was just broken fantasy for our format, especially the last couple of years. A guy who's that much of a help in batting average, that much in OPS. Obviously, the home runs are great, but it's not even the standout category, which is crazy. All of that combined, it's impossible to grade this because it's even more probably than when Brendan and Kyle made the other trade, the Carroll, Soto, and Judge. Like, The true answer probably is you win, Mark, because this is so much value and you have a keeper value thing.
Hmm.
But also, I get it, Kyle, because if I was going to sell everything I had, I would also just want to get the best possible keepers. That's probably the goal. And Kurtz is the best possible keeper. And Yamamoto just threw a ton of innings. He might get Cy Young in a year. Who the hell
Yep.
knows? Pitchers break all the time.
Tommy John.
Oh, don't say Yamamoto's going to be great this year.
No, Nick said he might get Cy Young in a year.
Oh,
He might.
He might, but
You don't want that?
let's
I,
get
I would
Cy
rather
Young.
I
Let's
would
get
rather that.
Cy Young this year. I mean,
Yeah.
It's weird that Mark corrected me from Cy Young to Tommy John, but
yeah.
Well, you were talking
fair,
about
I
him
guess.
throwing a lot of innings, so I thought your thought was he might get hurt in a year or two.
No, that's what I was trying to say. I'm trying
Okay.
to you corrected me correctly, and I appreciate that. All that to say, I'm sorry I've rambled here. I think in general, if I was trying to be in either of your shoes, I think Mark got more than I think probably he could have gotten for Kurtz. Like I think the Kurtz package needs to look like this, but I think it's actually even better than I would have guessed. Like it's really impressive. Uh, and I'd still do it if I was Kyle too, though. Basically, because I just want the best possible player if I'm trying to do a true rebuild. And I think you now have the number 1-1-1 keeper hitter. So again, agnostic view is I prefer Mark's side. Flag spot forever. Mark has a chance to win this league now.
Yep.
But good job too, Kyle. I don't know. It sucks. I can't like light one of you on fire with it, but
Well, I'd like to make one compliment to Mark. So anyone who's rebuilding or maybe they don't view themselves as a contender, maybe take another look at Mark's team last year and take another look at this trade. Because Mark, how did you get Nick Kurtz? I think you
I
drafted him with $1, right?
yeah,
drafted him for $1. He was my last pick last year.
How did you pick up Chase Burns? I think a savvy pickup in the middle of the year, right?
I got him from my dad in a midseason trade, but
incest.
yeah,
Still, I remember trying to acquire Chase Burns last year, and you were hot on him. You kind of knew that he was a big piece. And in this trade, it wasn't just Kurtz. I really did want Chase Burns. I'd been trying to trade for Burns even before the draft.
yep.
And then Royce Lewis, I think, was kind of a secondary piece. Probably Mark would agree with me there. But
Mhm.
the point is, you get. I mean, Royce Lewis, though, I guess to my point, though, $17 is all Mark spent in the draft to get Royce Lewis, right? So, like, it's not a big spend on his point. So, you can turn a small investment in year one in Nick Kurtz, a small trade in year one on Chase Burns, and the conviction to keep them and find them. Now, those are two of the best that you could possibly get. So, it's an extreme example, but you can turn that into a winning roster in 1 year turnover. So I hope that people rebuilding put enough flyers out there. I'll be honest, I'm not seeing that. It's made it pretty easy for me because that's what I'm doing. So I feel like I have all the flyers, but I mean, try to go out there and pick up guys who you think might come up this year, and then you can pull a mark and you can win the league.
The last thing I want to say too, before I ask how exactly this materialized, I want to hear the play-by-play. Is I omitted by accident here. Again, I think generally with both sides agnostic to the fact you're doing completely different things this year now. I like the Mark return better, but Kyle made a very shrewd move here. I want the league to notice and appreciate, which is, and Kyle, you can tell me if I'm just giving you credit because we're friends or something, or if this was actually part of your intention. It's what I would have done if I were you too. Let's say Kyle had competing packages from a couple different people. I think it's brilliant to make this trade with Mark, even agnostic to Kurtz, because what you have now is 4, 5, 6 teams who think they can win,
Yeah,
people to buy Ramirez.
that
If
was kind of intentional.
Ben or three
Yeah.
now get this return, I think people might pack it in early. There might be less teams going for it. Now you have more teams going for it. You have no clear favorite if you even have a favorite. And you put a lot of sweat on me, a lot of sweat on Griffin, a lot of sweat on Zach and Brendan and everybody be like, shit, I have to be the guy who makes the next big move. And
And
then
there's still
it's Jose Ramirez.
there's a big bopper left. I mean, there's still someone left for sale, Nick. Just
Did you
let me
have no idea
know.
that was going on, Kyle? Is that sort of what you were thinking?
Yeah, I wanted it to be as competitive as possible for sure. And
Smart.
also I want to zig while other people are zagging. And if a lot of people are zagging and trying to win the league, how many people are trying to rebuild right now? I know I am. I think Nick should be, but I don't think he is. The other Nick.
Nick, Griffin.
Yeah, I mean Griffin's always rebuilding, but I mean he rebuilt with the Bichette trade. Now we'll talk about
Exactly.
that one, but I'll stop talking. But yeah,
But the last
that
thing is, I know we only have a few more minutes on this, or we have 6 minutes. But
yeah.
Kyle, did you seek Mark out? Mark, did you seek Kyle out? How did this actually happen? Who made this cookie here?
I think I wasn't really very involved in this trade. Really, it was
Me neither.
my trade associate actually did this for me, Bridget. So I was in the car when the trade went down. So Bridget was really running the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say this trade didn't actually happen between Kyle and I. It happened between Bridget and I. No, I had been. I think Kyle alluded to it already, but we must have talked about Burns for 4 days in January during the snowstorm. Like I think it was Seager and Teoscar for Burns at one point, or Teoscar and Manny. Like there were a lot of different offers going back and forth, and so after the draft, I was like. I wonder if I could get Judge, and originally I was going to ask for Judge, Ramirez, and one of Glasnow and Yamamoto for Kurtz and Burns and something, but Kyle proposed the initial Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Judge for Kurtz and Burns, and I got a little greedy and asked what it would take to get Seager, so that's where Lewis came in. So I guess you could technically say he sought it out, but I was probably going to text him within 48 hours of the draft trying to make something like this happen.
And just a quick note to people who want to negotiate trades. Mark did the right thing. He basically said he wanted a little more. Is Corey Seager for Royce Lewis a good, 1 for 1? No, but I wanted Mark to be happy with the trade. So like that's why I did it. But so many of the people I'm talking to, it's like, do you want to find a 3 for 1 to get this done? I'm like, no, like just it's not a novelty. I'm trying to do a trade with you. Like just look at my damn roster. So yeah, so thanks for being super reasonable. I wanted it to be a good deal. That's
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, I hate it, but I'm glad you guys are having fun. All right, let's move on and talk about how this trade immediately impacted the league. We talked last time on here, me and Griffin did about power rankings. I think he actually technically didn't have me for, did not have himself first. I did. Uh, I said he had to have a strong draft, or I would change that. I am changing that. He's no longer my favorite team. Spoiler alert. He did not get Soto. He was supposed to get Soto. He did not listen. But he also then, I like Joe Adele. He then sold for some reason. So he made a trade with you, Kyle. I guess you're buying now. After your big trade for Kurtz, you decided to go for it. You guys traded Bichette for River Ryan, Felix Bautista, and Joe Adele. Mark, since you were intimately involved in the last trade, you probably were involved in this too somehow. What happened?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither.
just looking at the price on Bichette, it does confuse me a little bit, but obviously Kyle has the cap space to do what he wants. And, if June rolls around, it's a lot easier to, I mean, I think I like Adele more than Bichette, but maybe he can flip Bichette for a cheaper keeper than Adele later in the year.
Yeah. I mean, I would
Yeah,
have Bichette. I'd rather have Bichette for, this year. He's going to add third base. Bichette at one point in this league's history was so valuable. He was traded 1 for 1 for Bobby Witt, and it wasn't even clowned super hard. Uh, I think definitely for like a 1 year thing, I'd probably say Bichette's 20-ish hitter spots better for our format, but it's not by a mile. Adele's valuable. And Adele's obviously legitimately keepable for a few years if he continues to do what he did last year. You also have the Bautista thrown in there. Helsley's on here now. I'm not sure he comes back if he's healthy as the closer, but he could. There's an opportunity for a potential closer next year. And then River Ryan's got some intrigue. So it's not even a 1 for 1, but basically it's Bichette and Adele, I would say, is the two big pieces there. Kyle, I would guess, and Kyle can tell us in a second if I'm just making Kyle thoughts up for him, is trying to amass the best possible players to do another Kurtz, and probably thinks generally someone going for it's going to value Bichette more than Adele. We'll
Yep.
see. I would probably, but I don't know, Kyle. You may have traded your best player for Bichette. That's weird.
Well, I could, but we had a new rule in the league pass recently called the Roman rule, and this is a different point than the Roman rule. But I learned something called the Roman problem a couple years ago, where if you look at how Roman builds his roster, every single player on his roster is potentially keepable. So if you're rebuilding a roster, you could face the Roman problem, where at the end of the season you have a bunch of six, seven, $8 keepers that are not great. You need to consolidate. So I am looking for more blue chip keepers. Joe Adele, I think, is very good. I'm not actually down on him. I think he might run more this year. He could be a dual threat. But yeah, Bo Bichette, I think, is a more attractive trade chip. I traded away Corey Seager because I had to get the Kurtz deal done, but I want a new Corey Seager. And so I found the next best thing I could, Bo Bichette. So Bo Bichette, J Ram, maybe some more guys. Let me know, guys, if you want to compete this year. That's the whole idea. So that's what I was trying to do.
Mark, I admitted getting a clear answer from you, although it sounds like you prefer Adele. So you probably would take the Adele side of this trade. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think I would. And looking at it more, it makes sense. I think I understand why Griffin did it because now, kind of to Kyle's point about the Roman problem, Griffin loves to have the guys who cost like
No, no, Griffin
24.
wants that problem.
I'm sorry.
Griffin wants to have that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He loves to have the players who are $24 to $6.
All right, welcome back. I hope it does that twice. Mark was just explaining to us as the ad break hit why Griffin likes to do the Roman thing.
Yeah, so before we got cut off there, while I was looking at this a little bit more, Kyle made the great point about the Roman problem and having the $6 to $24 guys that your whole team is comprised of and trying to keep them. That is Griffin's whole MO when it comes to this league. Revisiting the Otani Duran trade from last year, 2 years ago, he wants the guys who are very good, not elite, that he can keep for 2 years and then probably flip. So I think that probably makes a little bit more sense as to why he went after Adele. I still think I like his side a little bit more, but that's just because I have a blind spot for Bichette. I don't think I've ever owned him. I know he almost led the AL in hitting last year, if I'm not mistaken, but so maybe that's just bad on me as a fantasy manager, but I think good job, Griffin. And if you finish third and win money every year, you're doing a good job. But I'm sure he would like to win it one year, so maybe switch it up.
Yeah,
Um,
no, don't even be nice. This is not your goddamn 401k here. You're not trying to get a 6% return. That's not the goal here. Like this is to win. Like getting Nick Kurtz from Mark last year is brilliant because you want to win now by trading him to win, hopefully.
says the guy betting $1 on Fliff every day to rack up his bonus points or his bonus bets.
Except my 4% ROI sports betting is my 401k. This is not. This is either I want to finish 11th like last year or I want to win.
Fair. Yeah, so I think it's a good trade on both sides. But going back real quick, something I wanted to bring up about the Kurtz and Judge trade is one, if you think you have a chance to compete to the rest of the league, go and make the big splash move now and get the guys at the beginning of the year instead of what?
That's my point.
Oh, well, I also wanted to say that, but you can. I
Fine,
apologize.
go ahead.
Co-authored by Nick, but he's also said this a million times on the podcast.
Sorry,
Get
go ahead, Mark.
get the guy at the beginning of the year and have him for the whole season as opposed to waiting too long. And Nick has a specific example he would like to share. Apologies. But second, it's really hard to do the full rebuild. And so if you if you think you're not going to be competitive, go and get the guys too and get as many of them as you can by picking them up during the season, get them cheap, the whoever the next guy to get called up, going at him, even if you're in 11th or 12th and don't have a chance at winning, which is, I believe, was also Kyle's point.
Good luck adding them this year, though, because I already have them.
Yeah. Well, Kyle is doing the rebuild to a T because every guy costs like $2 on his team now. So the Kurtz he can keep for 3, 4, 5 years until he runs into the 30% inflation that will actually make it difficult. But um yeah, it was just a point that I wanted to also co-author by Nick from the previous transaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I did make a face. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I do feel strongly though, if you're Mark or anybody who's going to go for it, like if I ever do my selling trades where I am buying for this year, they're usually going to happen early. It doesn't make a ton of sense to buy for a roto league and give up big assets in like July because if you do that, half the year's already banked and you're not going to get anywhere near the ROI. Like you get a full season of Aaron Judge and Corey Seager and Yamamoto helping you now. It's way smarter to do it early. Mark is absolutely right about that, I think. Um, well said. Well said by Kyle. You guys are very eloquent speakers. Let's bang out this next trade here. It's not quite as big, but I would argue it's almost more impactful than your guys' trade. This was a 1-for-1. Actually, should we share again? You want me to share it? I forgot we don't have that.
Oh, yeah, you should be able to share, but if you can't, let me know. Little behind the scenes. I set up the Zoom
Mark
meeting.
is taking over our podcast.
I have all of the power. It's a new reign.
Now that Mark is the best team in our league, he's also allowed to share.
It also says multiple presenters can share. So, like, Kyle, if you want to get in on this, feel free to.
Perfect.
At least Mark lets me share. Oh, also, I wanted to say this. It's not really that important to what you guys were saying too much. But when you were talking about Griffin trying to have consistently guys who are like Miguel Vargas types, not Miguel Vargas specifically, but guys the projections love who are like $14 surplus.
Yep.
I also think it's good generally, but Griffin's like the Guardians, dude. Like he traded away Otani the same way they traded away Lindor. Like he wants to finish like 85, 86 wins every year. Just the people who go to the stadium don't know what jersey to buy.
He just gets paid to he gets backstage passes. He gets paid to have them and he watches the big guys play. The big
It's just
boys
backstage
play.
in his cup chair. It's infuriating. I also love Griffin. Like I still really like Griffin's team.
Well,
Maybe a
obviously,
little bit more mean than I intended to be. I like Griffin's team still.
obviously Griffin is one of the most fun guys to trade with because who else is going to do this wacky Joe Adell trade? You know,
Yeah.
I just have to go out and get these expensive guys.
It really is funny though, like just zooming out, that the guy who's clearly the most committed to a rebuild of the last couple of years we've got traded to get the more expensive win now player from the guy who I ranked as the number one team 96 hours ago.
I knew he would do it.
I guess.
I don't know. That's why.
All
Did
right,
you
well,
did you offer it as the
Yeah,
last point? Oh,
of course.
interesting.
Yeah, I made this one happen.
I think Kyle has the league read better than anybody then, because that's very funny to hear. I assume Griffin like ignited that conversation. That's really funny to hear. Uh, but anyway, so again, you set a lot of panic, Kyle, by making your move with Mark there. I, for example, wanted to be competitive. I was like, shit. Also, more importantly, Spencer Strider just sucks and got hurt again. So annoying. I love him. Not loved him the last couple of years. So I needed some pitching help. I make this trade with Raymond 1-for-1. Lawrence Butler for Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers? Just kidding. Trevor Rogers.
Trevor Rogers.
Kyle, Mark, what do you guys think?
Kyle, the floor is yours.
Lubob is kind of like the Royce Lewis of this year who doesn't get injured. It's like he's a mystery box. And I was really interested to see if Nick was going to keep Lubob because I think there is value, but the range of outcomes is so wide. Trevor Rogers, I think, is one of the most underrated pitchers in all of baseball. So I think it's a really fair trade, actually, if you just compare the two values. I guess I don't really have much to add. I think it's really a toss-up. I think if you really want to lock in certainty, Trevor Rogers is probably a little bit better, which is crazy to say given his career. And then Lubob, I think, very easily could be the best player in the trade if he turns out to be 25-25 and kind of take the next step forward. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I think Kyle said it perfectly. My opinion may be slightly clouded on this trade. I forget what website I was reading it on, but someone had Lawrence Butler as a dark horse AL MVP this year.
That was
So,
me before the trade.
I might be slightly clouded where I like that a little bit more. I mean, Trevor Rogers was amazing last year. Over 18 starts, it was like a 1 ERA or low 2 ERA. So obviously you're not going to get that over a full season, but low threes, and if the O's are good, Brad will rack up a lot of wins and quality starts, hopefully. I've also apologized. I think you mentioned Strider. Did you do this after the Strider IL news came out or before?
That was not actually the reason this trade happened, but it had already been released that Strider would start the year in the IL. That did
Right.
not. That's not the reason this trade happened, but it did already happen. So that kind of it mentally does impact me, I guess. Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, I was just looking at your team. Like you already have every one of your outfielders, should be in your lineup and starting. So if you have a surplus there, it doesn't hurt. And your util guys also, McGonigal and Doyle. So if you can go and get Rogers, who has the potential to finish as a top 15 starting pitcher. And this is also something that I feel gets overlooked. Whenever you get pitchers in this league, I feel like their price is always keepable in your trades. So if he continues to be elite, you get to keep him for another 3 years, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
I 55, 45 Butler again. I know I'm not taking a lot of huge stands on either any of these transactions, but I don't hate it for you either. Um, and I think you could, if we talk about this transaction in three months, you could clearly be the winner.
Yeah. I mean, the Roman idea of having all the middling players is kind of the Butler conundrum for me because I think his range of outcomes is pretty wide. I didn't want to trade him specifically. I wasn't like seeking to remove him. I fear there's a scenario where since he starts sitting in the second half against lefties, he's not hitting the top couple of spots in the lineup anymore. He becomes less valuable just off of not playing as often. I fear he was hurt in spring training that could end up impacting, and he's back. He's healthy now, but he didn't play a lot of spring training, so he could start slow. I also do think Mark's not crazy to say whatever article you read. Like I wouldn't say he's the best player in the AL, even if he has the best outcome. But I understand why it's like a fun thing to write. And I think he's a pretty safe bet to go power, speed, okay, average, at least average, maybe even good OPS. I love Lawrence Butler. Uh, for me, though, it's that I'm not sure he'll have a ton of surplus at 16. Rogers either is going to be hurt or bad or really good, I think. I don't really think there's much in between with him. And I will avoid any issues with that decision a year from now. Plus, just logistically, the way I'm built, even before Strider, I was hoping to leave the draft with at least one more pitcher probably than I got, who I
Mhm.
can trust. I have no idea if I can trust Rogers. I'm either going to love having him or I'll hate him. But I do think I trust him more than the other pitchers who were becoming available to me when I tried to trade for a pitcher that day. He became probably in my mind the best option. I think if you look at it, it's really funny as far as like when I did the power rankings, just like philosophically, you guys weren't on that pod. That was just me and Griff, but it's really ADP when the expensive NFBC leagues are going on and how much to value just the auction calculator and the projection from the BATX and ATC and systems you trust. If you look at this from AD or NFBC, Rogers is going higher. Rogers is multiple rounds higher and probably the better player. Plus, he's cheaper. So if I'm rebuilding because of Mark becoming the dominant team in our league, I got the better player for the rebuild. If you look at the calculator, Lawrence Butler is like a 10 or 11, $12 surplus, and Rogers is barely at cost. I think he's like a $7 player, it says from projections. Huge discrepancy there. More than
Mhm.
anything, this was just that I felt like I needed pitching after the draft. I do have a surplus of outfielders. I don't
It's a good trade all around.
it's also always fun to have a guy you like on your team. I have Lawrence Butler, or not Lawrence Butler. I have Trevor Rogers now. He's an Oriole.
He's an Oriole, yeah. You said
But
it
I also
perfect.
love Lawrence Butler. I mean, Butlaw, Law Dog, so many good nicknames there. I miss him already. Like, I do think he's going to be pretty good still. I just fear he won't play against lefties, and he might not. Like, I remember I had Cedric Mullins at different points. Like, he's not Cedric Mullins, but I fear there could be a scenario where he starts hitting seventh against righties because their lineup's pretty good at the top, and then against lefties doesn't play. And he goes from a guy who gets to be a top 20 outfielder just because he has all the counting stats to playing 25 games and no longer being that. He's also weirdly inefficient running, which is annoying. He runs a lot, but he's not very fast, and he got caught a decent amount. So if the steals go away, I hate that too.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think he's like 50th or 45th percentile, something like that. He's not
Yeah,
that fast.
exactly.
But Naylor can do it.
Anyone can do it, apparently, except Lawrence.
Is this their last year playing in Sacramento?
It is. And
Okay.
I think that is really, really helpful to Brett Rooker and Jacob Wilson. But I think actually that was going to hurt Lawrence Butler now that I don't have him.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, let's break down the last trade we have. Another big one. It's a weird one. It's big in weird ways. So this is Raymond and Griffin, two teams we think as contenders. Kobe Mayo, Francisco Lindor, Connolly Early, for Moises Ballesteros, Corbin Burns, Mookie Betts, and Kyle Manzardo. So obviously, first takeaway, Manzardo's on the move. Dude cannot buy an apartment to save his life. Kyle, your name's also Kyle. What happened?
I think just the players I care about, Betts and Lindor, Burns, Mayo, probably in that order. And or I didn't know what I like Lindor maybe a little more than Mookie. I don't know what order I said for those two. But Burns, Mayo. I'm not a big early guy. I'm not a big Ballesteros guy. And Manzardo, as I mentioned earlier, I like him, but pretty low on the totem pole given this breakdown of players. So, Burns, I view him as kind of a player that I'd like to have on a rebuilding team. Mayo, same category. He's $4, so I didn't draft him because he was $4. A, it was a little bit higher than I wanted to spend, and B, you become worse of a keeper the more expensive you are. But I do like Mayo this year. Not necessarily a whole lot of certainty in terms of what he can do, but as a flyer on your team, good to have. I am interested to see how Ray does this because he now has a couple of players like Holiday, Mayo, players that I wouldn't necessarily put in the category of a win now, but really good players to have. So how are you going to organize that? Not really sure. Lindor, great player to have for win now. I'd say this is pretty even. I actually, as much as I like Lindor and don't think the injury is going to be a huge deal, I actually think that Betts and Lindor will be pretty even this year. So I'm not huge one way or the other, but Lindor is obviously valued higher across consensus. So I'll pass it to you guys.
Mark,
Nick, do you want to go? Or you want me to?
you're my guest. You go ahead.
I think Kyle makes a lot of good points, but I think he's siding on the Ray side here slightly. I'm gonna disagree and say I think Griffin got the better end of this deal. Mostly because of the Lindor injury and the hand with the broken bone. I just I hate having guys who have any sort of wrist hand injury going into the season. I know he's been fielding and I think swinging, but I don't know if he's played since the injuries happened. So why take the chance on that going into the year? And I think Mookie, you know what you're going to get. Also, last year, the whole illness thing with him in Japan and losing like 15 pounds before the first game started, like that kind of, I feel like that might have thrown off the beginning of his year and took him a while to get back to what he can be. Obviously, not an MVP caliber anymore, but I think I'd rather have Mookie. I'm so out on Kobe Mayo, even though he's got the opportunity now in Baltimore with the Westberg injury and should be playing every day, at least to start the season. I don't think he's good. I also just I think it was last year when he got sent down to AAA to start the year. He came out and he's like, I don't know what else I have to do to prove that I belong. And then he came up and hit like sub 100 over like 48, 50 at bats and got sent down again. So I think Manzardo is more proven, so I'd rather have that. Early is fun. He made the rotation and he's going to be a starter now, but I think that's the only side I'd rather have. And Ray's getting the extra, or Griffin is getting Moises. So yeah, I like Griffin's side more here. Um, that's where I land on this.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I'm generally more aligned with what Mark's saying, just in that I think it sounds like of the three of us, Kyle, you're the low guy on Manzardo. Maybe the high guy on Mayo. I like Mayo. It sounds like more than Mark, but I don't know. Like just thinking about logistics of it, if Mayo is really good for the first month, but then Westbrook comes back, I'm not sure how Mayo plays. Mayo's at $4, Manzardo's at 6, so it's similar costs anyway, and they were similar level. I mean, Manzardo before he came up and was middling in the big leagues with OK Power was the same kind of prospect Mayo has, but except Manzardo's done some stuff in the big leagues. So just head to head, I'd rather have Manzardo. I would, I think, significantly prefer Lindor to Betts. I don't think Betts is bad. I'm not trying to say that. I think Betts will still have a good year, be a top 50-ish hitter. I'm really excited about the Dodgers lineup. I think Betts is going to obviously be better than it was last year. But I also fear that the illness thing just became like a catch-all for why he started to regress and have a worse set of outcomes anyway. I mean, he has never been a peak like exit velocity. Remember when he did the home run derby and he had like 3 home runs? Like he even said himself, I'm not built for this. I think if he starts to lose much physical stuff at all, he can't be special and is just a really good player, which he still is. I'm not trying to say he won't be really valuable. It's just that even though their costs were kind of similar in the auction and projections like Betts a lot based on historical stuff, Lindor could be hurt from the hand injury. That's definitely possible. He could be slow with power, but Lindor is just so steady year to year. And I have a feeling I would take him a good bit over Betts head to head. Burns, I like a lot, but I fear some of the keeper stuff with Burns. He was already $8 and was like optimistically an SP like 2.5, 3 before the injury, just the way he was looking last year. I'm not positive a ton of surplus value there. Ballesteros is a fun flyer. We'll see what happens with that. Early's a fun flyer. We'll see what happens with that. I think though, just because they're both going for it, the costs are similar. It's pretty much Lindor for Betts head to head, and I would just prefer Lindor by a good bit personally. So I would take that side of it. But I'm happy to be proven wrong when they both underwhelm because Lindor has no power. Betts is just 120 pounds again. And then this deal is decided because Ballesteros hits 35 home runs. Like that could definitely happen.
Lindor is notorious for also starting slow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. He already does it. So even if he does it now, I'm not going to buy into it. Betts
Fair.
also, by the way, just to be clear on Betts, March and the first little bit of April was like the best he was all year almost till the very end. I know he was really sick before the year started and lost all the weight, but like he was amazing in the Asian series and then had a pretty good first week or so, and then he got bad. The
Yeah,
first half.
he hit a couple homers like in the first week of the season,
That's what I'm saying.
and
Like,
then he did finish. His best
yeah,
month
his
was the
finish was good
last month.
too. His
Yeah,
finish was good.
yeah, he
So I
yeah.
think it's more just he had a middling season, kind of for a bunch of reasons. The sickness did not help, I'm sure. I'm not saying it's nothing, but I think it's become a common catch-all thing. People say this past season now, since the last one ended. Oh, he's just gonna be Mookie again, and I don't believe that personally. Anyway, that's trades. You guys want to talk free agents?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sure.
All right, Mark, rank every pickup that's happened since the draft.
Um, who did I pick up? Because that's the best ones.
They're ranked in order right here. Here's one and two.
No, are we going to go through every single one or just call
No,
out
no,
the
no, no.
ones?
Just if there's anything that's noteworthy, it can be your team, any other team. We're not going to.
Um, Shout out to Brendan for picking up Ryan Waldschmidt in the minors. He outbid me for him, so respect there. This is kind of just a catch-all, but anyone who adds the injured guys into their IL spots, kudos to you. Way to be savvy, way to be smart, take advantage where you can. I wish teams were required to put them on and like actually designate them for the IL so you can add more guys. Um, Looking at specific transactions, sorry, I'm just trying to go back.
No, it's also fine. It's okay. It's only been a couple days.
Well, Boyle was a good pickup for
Yeah,
you.
it was.
That
Last
turned
Uh,
out better than I thought. I was actually going to drop him for Waldschmidt until that didn't go through, and then I had a transaction to drop him today, and then I looked at like 11:45, and they said he's starting the second game of the season now, so that was fun. Um, I like the Jonathan India pickup by New Nick. I think he could be good. Um, Also, shout out to Brendan Cedric Mullins. I thought he would be someone who would be drafted. It's a good pickup.
yeah. mean, there's been a ton. You named a lot of the important ones, I think.
Yeah, I
Okay.
those were the ones that stood out to me. And then obviously all the injured guys and filling your minor spots. Good job to all those people who made those transactions.
Eric getting Seawald, I think. Kyle, you getting Grayson. I thought 20 bucks would win him when he got cut. But
Nah.
rebuilding Kyle says no amount will ever win him from me. That was frustrating to have happen. Like you
Well,
said, the injured guys. I think specifically though, I thought two after the draft would get Clark Schmidt. I think Griffin did a great job getting Clark Schmidt, who I think is legitimately useful.
Jung Ho Lee, I think, is like $15 or $16 in bad X. So kind of
Yeah.
thought someone might want him. But yeah, Grayson, I tried to get him for $1 during the auction, and he was one of the few targets that Charlie snatched from me. But the Goblin always gets his, so I had to put out a nice bid just to represent that exchange. That's why he went for what he did.
Um, Zach also getting Kirby Yates, who the complete blind spot, but is probably going to be the closer in Anaheim now. Also a great pick.
Yeah. Why don't we talk about how the auction happened? You guys want to look at the auction results and talk about picks you liked in that?
Definitely.
Yeah, would love to.
Ooh, I don't really use that section. Draft results. Fancy.
What do you use?
I just look at the players.
Well, the order and the cost and all that. I don't
Just
know.
no, just portrait mode. I just scroll through and I just look at them.
He looks at every team and writes it down.
So who is this year's Nick Kurtz from this draft?
Ooh, that's a great question. We'd have to scroll down.
Yeah, actually, probably someone at the end.
Yeah. Uh, maybe
Dieter
scroll up a
Fuentes.
little. Oh, I mean, I'm biased. I've got a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
it's still there.
$1 players I like, but Mick Abel, I think, is an interesting player. Um,
Condon.
It's stupid Kyle taking lead of Reese from me for when I put him up for a buck.
sorry.
Yeah, you should be. Maybe it's Seanwell.
Yeah.
It's not, but it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, what other players are up around the one, two, $3? I like Cam Smith a lot. Cam Smith is just very
Yeah,
athletic.
I did too.
So,
It's crazy how much he fell off. Like, I know he was the it
Rookie of the
guy
year
going
contender.
going into last season, but
mhm.
he's still gonna play and he was serviceable last year. Oh, we are running out of time.
Like in
Yep.
general or for the pod?
No, I thought it was for the Zoom. Never mind.
That was
Oh,
the
no, it
other.
is. We have 10 minutes and your Zoom ends.
My laptop like just put a pop-up on and I thought it was the Zoom telling us we still have 9 minutes on the Zoom.
Yeah, we're good. I actually really loved Ozuna by Mark. That's someone I wanted back for a buck. He beat me to him.
Yeah, it's a good one.
You guys want to start at the top then, like work our way down, or
Yeah.
like I can just show you a page. We can say, is there anything noteworthy on it?
Sure.
On these first 23 picks, anything noteworthy that you guys thought was especially good or bad?
Yeah, I have an observation. I just think it's funny that the two schools of thought, and I know there are a lot of people on both sides, but I'll boil it down to the Griffin and maybe the my side of what we expected to happen. I expected the really expensive players, possibly I said over on 120 for Juan Soto, but I said anywhere between, 110, 115, and 150, I think was my range generally. And so I think it's interesting that my side kind of happened, but I would also say Griffin's side kind of happened. And I have made a couple of jokes already, so I don't mean to be rude or poke fun at people, but I think there was a really inefficient draft for several teams. Particularly New Nick had, I think, $55 or so left. So I think those inefficiencies led to this kind of dual market, uh, which we saw happen in the draft, where we get people like Freddie Freeman in the low 50s, and then you get Juan Soto at 138. What's the good, deal here? Like, what should you do if you're in this type of market? I don't know, but I actually still think Juan Soto at 138 is great. I think good job, Jack, going out and getting him. I truly think so. People might make an argument and say, well, you can add Trey Turner plus,
Hey,
Randy
Griffin.
Rosarena and still be better off. It's like, no, but it's not Juan Soto. So I think it's an interesting one. That's my observation. I just think it was interesting. Kind of both ideas happened. A lot of inefficiencies.
Yeah. fun fact on the Juan Soto buy for all those who were at the draft.
That is sheets.
My dad still being stuck in the 80s and the 90s actually wrote out all of his values by hand on his sheets and had Soto pegged at $139. So we got to hear about all that surplus value for the rest of the night. But
Nice.
great evaluation by him. It was funny. I was actually talking to him on Saturday morning and he was like, "Yeah, no one's gonna expect me to do this, but I'm gonna get Soto." And as the price kept rising in the room, I just kind of kept glancing over him. I was like, there's no way he's going to go 120, 121. Like it just kept going up. And I was like, is he going to stick to it? So good for him because his strategy is never get the best guy. It's always the fill out your roster of all $25 hitters and have really good cheap pitching. Um, Scrolling through it, I love Christian Yelich at $37 for Brad. I thought that was a great buy.
Yeah.
Um, on the other side, obviously it looks even worse now, but Pepio getting hurt, but him at $30 to begin with, I felt like was a little steep for Miz. Um, and then yeah, I wish Nick Sterali had spent more on some of the more elite guys. You know, starting out with the $28 Castillo, I thought he was just going to kind of drive up the price on all the elite guys, but then didn't buy anyone again until Harper at 69. And at that point, no one else could even bid that much. So was an interesting strategy. So let's see how it plays out this year. Um, Nick, was there anyone in the top 30 that you were looking at?
I mean, on this sheet, I liked Lau. I think nine's a lot, but it's not bad based on the projections. I think it's kind of just the way they all go here. Like, I would rather have him for sure than I don't want to pick on Zach because I actually have like 6 or 7 Zach picks I love, but I think Willie Casher 15 is just kind of nuts. I
I
think just everybody had money. Willie
I
Casher,
was
like a guy should go for like 3.
I was really confused when that was happening.
It's just everybody had money.
But he's a
He
one
got
dollar.
nominated too early.
He should be $1. Like
Yeah.
what is? Did something happen that I didn't know about? I was so
No, it's
confused.
just everybody had money. Like
It's nuts.
it happens. On the negative side, I think it's just maybe I'm more negative in general on bets. I think if you're going to buy one of these big guys at the top, I'd rather have a lot of them than bets for 70. If you're going to pick
Yeah.
on the big guy, I know we're all kind of saying pay what you got to pay. That's what you say, but I think bets for 70 was probably not something I liked. Like I think he's basically Freeman, just different positions, and Freeman's like Kyle said, $18 cheaper. I'd rather just pay up 10 more bucks and get Lindor, or pay up whatever it is, $12, $20 and get Trey personally.
We'll give Charlie some credit. Charlie had some really good picks. So
Yeah,
Freddie at
Charlie, dude,
52.
Charlie, we used to say, Kyle, like a couple of years ago, Charlie just wants the Roman roster. You're saying of all the mid 10, 12, $8 players who are sort of keepable. Charlie's got some gusto to him.
He did a good version of that though. Like to get Freddie at that price, it takes patience, right?
Yeah.
He was one of the last big boppers to go.
Oh, Didier Fuentes too, by the way, before we scroll past him. I know it's appreciated because of the Strider injury and all. The Braves rotation just is decimated, but even if he's not going to be a starter for the first month or two, I do like Didier Fuentes from
Yeah,
Raymond.
they're going to
I think
use
he
him
goes
out of
for
the
even
bullpen.
at the end. It's one of the only guys here who goes for the same now as they would later.
I know people might have a tough time with Zach Wheeler at $37, but I actually wanted to give Ray some credit as someone
I
who's
like
going
it.
for it.
Yep.
So not only is Wheeler, potentially going to be a major difference maker this year, but this reminds me of the 2025, was it 2025? Maybe 2024 draft when Brendan went out and spent a lot on DeGrom. And DeGrom
Yeah.
was out the entire 2024 season. And I legitimately didn't understand the move. I knew that he intended to keep him, but I thought it was just way too expensive. But I think Brendan just identified the fact that when you do have a top 3, top 5 SP, even at that price level, there's still a lot of value. And I think Ray is doing a version of that, and also hopefully for him, seeing Wheeler perform well this year too.
To back that up, Wheeler might be pitching by the end of April now. Like I
Yeah,
know
He might be throwing him.
he's
He was the
he's
best pitcher available. He was the
yeah,
best one available. He's basically he's not as good, but he's the Soto of pitchers.
yeah. Um, Another one. I love the Ryan Weathers at $8. I wish I just kept him for the 6 that I could have. I think he could be really good. And then I have to bring it up, but Luis Robert going for 26 when I had won him at 24 and the whole draft conspiracy, just, you know, throwing that out there. He should be on my team for $24. Griffin fucking with his roster on his phone caused the whole room to crash and I lose a potential stud. So hopefully he's terrible for Raymond. And it's funny, the offseason transaction trade of Robert for Cruz, neither one of them ended up being
They're
kept.
both useless.
And Robert ends up back on Raymond's team for less than he would have kept him for. So good job, Raymond, but you stole him from me. And if I don't win this year, that's why.
I
The
love
butterfly
Mark.
effect at the end of the year of that, where it ends up being Mark and Raymond fighting for the top spot, and Robert is either amazing and wins it, or he's ass and loses it.
Calling it now, last day of the season, Robert's going to hit like 2 home runs that pushes Raymond into the first spot.
Oh my God.
And I want Griffin to go back like he did with that Jake McCarthy stat 2 or 3 years ago,
What
and
would have happened?
like what would have happened if he had been on my team. But yeah,
Wow.
goodbye, Raymond.
Also, just one fun note about Mark's trade block. It still says, willing to move Robert. I love that. Just you sure did. You moved him.
I moved him all right.
He's been moving all over the place.
Um, just quickly when we're on this, Cruz, Robert, I would throw, I mean, Reynolds and Ward maybe, but all of a sudden I can't see the last player on the list, but wanted to call him out.
Altuve.
Albies?
Altuve, yeah, thank you. All of those
Oh,
players stood out to me at these levels, and Ozzy, Altuve and Ozzy. Just if especially if you're a new Nick, why don't you go for these strong track records, kind of middle cost players? You could get all of them very easily. So those were all great buys.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about, even though I don't like his profile generally. I mean, Luis Ariz for 4 is a significant surplus, I think. You need a
Agreed.
he's like Chandler Simpson where you need a build to have him.
Yep.
I much prefer him at 4 to like Jake McCarthy at 4. I also did like a good bit, a little bit higher up. Where do you go? Oh, Steele at 5. I think Steele at 5 is excellent.
Absolutely.
That's what I would
yeah.
have liked to have made. I didn't get him though. Good job, Zach.
Can you scroll down a little bit more? I saw Chapman, and I just wanted to say you're welcome because I don't know if you remember the Chapman bid, but it was just me and New Nick for probably $7, $8. I don't want Chapman. I was just price enforcing, so he had a lot of money, so I figured he.
All right, welcome back. In addition to our commercial break you guys just observed, we also have hot off the presses, Raymond's new power rankings. This weekly segment we do now, where Raymond every week will rank every team and provide justification for it. He has sent them to me. No one else did this exercise, but here's Raymond's. He says the number 1 team, Bucher, probably the most well-rounded roster. Assuming luck rebounds this year, there is no reason he won't be in the money. Early favorite for the number 1 spot. Number 2, Spark. Trade for the best player, become the best teams. Well done, Spark. Judge and Schwarber and Simpson and Seager, scary. Pitching staff, also no joke. Judge, Schwarber, Simpson, and Seager. That's just so funny. It's like the Dragons, where it's like one of them's like kind of stupid looking. Like what?
Griffin,
Brendan.
make that meme.
Yeah. Brendan, star-studded lineup. If Jordan stays healthy and Langford takes next step, competition for number 1 spot will be intense. 4, Raymond. Fantrax power ranks not giving me enough love, but I'll be fine. ... I think ... Maybe I'm biased. Stars and scrubs all day. We'll need to churn and burn underperforming players to patch holes, but confident will execute. He trusts himself. Back. Number 5, he's back. Roster oozes. That's all he says for Zach. Okay.
Ooze.
Stay away from the green ooze.
Number 6, Griffin. Not crazy about the pitching staff, but a lot of high upside guys. Ideal roster construction for Griff heading into season. Well built for roster churning. Not crazy about roster now. but confident he will finish at near the money. That should be Griffin's post thing every fucking year.
Yeah.
Not crazy about his roster, but confident he'll finish near the money. 7. Roman. Stars and scrubs. Love me some Tatis, Corbin, Turner, Wu, and Yuri. Recommend dumping underperforming players to try and land breakouts. Can be very competitive if more strong contributors secured, pardon me.
Especially competitors like Bichette and J-Ram and maybe even
No,
Royce
no, no, no.
Lewis. Maybe even I don't know, Leo DeVries or something like
Mark,
that.
welcome to the side where we're like, fuck, shut up, Kyle.
Stop it.
Also, side note, before we go any further in the Raymond thing here, Kyle, I bet Missigman back in like January you would finish ahead of him this year, thinking you might just try to compete anyway for the first month or two. You're an ass. I'm going to lose that bet now. He's going to definitely be ahead of you because you're
Can
going to
I
have
still
to.
get in on that?
No, I'm out of it now. I would have sold my position if I could. Anyway, number 8, Brown Bombers. This is Charlie. I like how he named all of us, but for that he named Brown Bombers. Good values all around. Very well-rounded lineup. Should be competitive and will have more room to grow if things break right. Brad, number 9. Love the offense. Not so much the pitching. Needs an ace to anchor the rotation. Otherwise, offense is very, very nice. Number 10. Mix. Miz. Roster is very good, but not scary. X factor is the Diaz Mason Miller duo. Maybe wise to deal one of them early in the season to upgrade pitching or batting. Number 11. Eck. Has some work to do if wants to finish in money. Love Acuna and Scooble, but struggling to find other players that will be difference makers. 12. Stan. Aside from Soto and Skeens, struggling to find strong contributors on roster. Will need some luck and or strong acquisitions to compete. With that said, Mr. Menace is one of the more keen in-season managers and will surely find ways to compete. Number 13. New Nick. Nice draft and stock rising. A churn and burn roster approach throughout the season. Recommended to land breakouts and compete. 14. Kyle. Way to get Kurtz and Burns. Could be monsters for next decade. Roster will be scary in 2027! Exclamation point. No doubt that if Kyle wants to finish in the money this year, he would be competitive. Would need to sacrifice minor league players, but Kyle is sharp on the waiver wire and could string together a competitive team if he chooses to. Wild card team of the year.
Did you
Mark,
make
where
up
is he
that?
wrong? Where is he right?
Did you make up that last part?
No, that's what Raymond said verbatim.
Oh, the one he sent me doesn't include all that about Kyle.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys
Mine
can't
says, mine
Kyle,
says
did you include that? He texted you mean in a group chat.
he says Kyle, wait to get Kurtz and Burns. Could be monsters for next decade. Roster will be scary in 2027! Exclamation point, and ends there.
No, mine's got more Kyle thoughts than that.
Wow.
He's just always thinking about me.
Well, mine Kyle's in, so I guess since Kyle was a part of it, he wanted to give Kyle more attention. To encourage Kyle to read it, maybe.
Um, no strong disagreements anywhere. Nick and I were just talking off camera during the commercial break, and that the teams that are ranked like 5 through 9, 5 through 10, just need a couple things to go right from the draft and a few savvy pickups to end up being competing for the money. And I feel like you, depending on how you look at the rosters, you could have the guy who's in ninth, in fifth on your power rankings. I would put me one instead of you. So I guess I disagree there just for the hell of it. But yeah, I would take Kyle finishing above Miz though, if I can get in on that.
Oh, you would take that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I'd buy
was
your
going to do nothing.
let's
And you kept
let's
to do
have like
one.
a Kalshi trade. Like I'll buy you out of your position.
I
Is
will
it?
sell you my position in that trade. That's fine. I'm worried Kyle's going to have an illegal roster all year. The only disagreement I have that's more than like a spot or two is probably I would say Eric is higher than 11. I'd probably put Eric still at like 6 or 7.
That's what I was going to say because he's got Yandy, Jazz, he's got
Hey, Jazz is like a top 20 hitter. What is Raymond talking about? No other difference makers.
Devers.
Devers is also, yeah, good point. I'm not looking at his roster. Its screen's being shared. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Eric is, like, to me, it's a top 5-ish. And then I think, like, Zach, Eric are probably the next two in some order.
Buxton and Nimmo.
Yeah, no, I think Eric's definitely a competitor for the money.
Paredes, if he continues to pull. He might be a little pricey for my likes, but he's a great player, I think. And then Rasmussen, if you like all the projections, he's like way better than anyone thinks.
Yeah.
Sandy, School, Kirby could be pretty scary,
No, I think Eric's good.
especially if he trades me Acuna for my package of boppers, my beautiful boppers.
Kyle's going to convince Eric to rebuild and get Acuna. I love it. All right, back to the draft. I don't remember where I left it off. I think it was
I,
around here.
I was just trying to make a joke about Chapman,
Where is he?
Matt Chapman. He's on the pitch. Oh, I saw him a second ago.
He is
He's hiding.
picked 53.
Oh, excellent.
Because I think we finished talking about O'Neill Cruz, Lou Bob.
Yeah, we're like around here. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and all I was saying is that during this time, you can see the stamina in the draft started to wear off a little bit after Ozzy. And so I noticed at this point, my week 40 some dollars, 20 some dollars of max bid started to become pretty tight to the rest of the crew. And I saw that, Mike Trout went for 20. I was like, oh man, maybe I expected him. Oh, that was actually after Matt Chapman. But Matt Chapman was nominated and Nick started bidding on him a lot. And he was going to go for like $15. And I just started trying to go back and forth. I really didn't want Matt Chapman. So it was the biggest relief for me personally of the draft. I was just trying to price and force. So you're
Well, it's
welcome.
good you did because Nick still had money left over afterwards, so he's probably happy to spend some there.
Yep.
Anybody you guys liked a lot here or hated a lot here?
Aaron Nola is pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought hater too, honestly.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite picks by New Nick.
Frankly, Helsley even a lot of the closers went. I still have no idea how to value closers correctly for the auction, but I think a lot of the closers, and that's what Nick got a lot of, like Devin Williams, I think too. Generally, they went for less than I thought they would. The top end of them.
Actually, if New Nick had just continued doing this, you Savage, Cruz, and Hater, that's great. Those three,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think.
even Cruz for $6, I love.
Yeah. And then I like Evan Carter a lot for
Yeah.
Miz. That's really great. Shane Baz for 6, really good.
Yeah, I think Glaber at 6 is excellent too. Glaber's someone else the projections just love.
Yep. Riley O'Brien could work out for you, Mark. We'll see. Easy cut if he doesn't, right? What did
Yep.
it cost you? $1? So
A
who
dollar.
cares?
Fingers
Frankly,
crossed.
Brian Abreu too at 7. Like both him and Hader were cheaper than they should have been. Like if I could go back and know they would go for that, I would just bought both because they're both going to be really valuable all year. Hader's back in a month probably.
And Mark, were you goofing on me with Dominguez? Who was the other person bidding on him?
That was not me.
I thought he was going to be $1, but I just wanted him. So
It was
If he
probably
had gone an
Miz.
hour later, he would have been.
yeah,
McClanahan, by the way, Kyle, good guy there.
Yeah, that was going to be the next one I brought up.
thanks.
Tovar is another one I wrote down during the draft and afterwards too. Your dad got a great buy in Tovar. I thought Tovar might go for like $25. He got
Yeah,
nominated late, but I
that's
think he's super solid.
2020 guy right there for $7. That's crazy.
I like Tovar.
I think Soriano and Rodon are really good.
Yeah, Rodon was another one I wrote down. I think we're getting to. Oh yeah, he's in here now. You're right.
Yep.
I like him a lot. And then after this, it's kind of easy to pick. Like they're all kind of good because there's not many guys more than like a buck or two anymore left.
We already talked about how we all loved Cam Smith.
Yep.
Yeah, Ozuna, Ponce, Jared Jones, Kyle. Another Jared for you.
Thank you. Glad to be back on Glob.
Libertoire was good by Griffin.
I think Solaire for $1 was also kind of a steal.
Yeah, honestly, I love Soler. I know there's no bad buy at a buck, but to me, he's worth more than that. But also, they just all are at this point. It's hard to even pick ones I like because I like them all.
Yeah,
This
I mean,
draft really went from like everybody's too much to like kind of like you said, it was right around, I don't know, pick 50, 60, 70. Like after this 7 for Tovar, which was already too low. Does anyone even go for 7 the whole rest of the draft?
No.
Yeah, they don't. Lawler for a buck is a steal.
Great
The
pick.
crazy part is, Kyle, you weren't in the room, but in the room when I said, "Oh, I can't draft any more hitters," I did still want Lawler. Mark said, "Who's Lawler?" And I said, "He's a pretty good guy. He used to be a top prospect. He has a chance to play right now, and he's having a pretty solid situation create itself for him." And Mark
Which
goes, "Oh,
which pick do you think you were saying that during?
uh, probably whenever my last player before that got taken."
That's a shame because I was two before Mark, I think.
I think when I
Yeah,
got Bazana, I said that because I didn't need any more hitters.
It's a shame
yeah.
because River Ryan and Lawler were the two that I was really looking at that point.
I really like a Christian Campbell and Condon. I mean, Kyle, you finished the draft out there. You made the picks that I think are smart there. Campbell and Clark. Cholosky by Eric there is excellent.
Yeah, UCLA. Yeah, I had my eye on him because he's already 20. One note for everyone rebuilding: if you notice, all of the players that I picked up that are prospects, they're all on the older side. So, with exception to DeVry, but um, that was intentional. So maybe it'll work out. Maybe my strategy is stupid. Maybe I'm an idiot. But
Stupid Kyle.
yeah, we'll see.
So just generally zooming out there about the draft, how'd you guys think it went overall? I know I agreed with you, Kyle. I think we both said basically when we were estimating what we think Soto would go for. I think I was around like 115, 120, I thought would happen. He went for more, but I think after that they were all less. But did you guys think the draft sort of went the way you thought it would? Do you think we were, I don't know, too bearish at the gates, too bullish at the gates?
I I would say I thought the elite guys who were in the draft were going to go for more. Um, Maybe that's just because in the past years there were more elite. Like Soto was obviously head and shoulders above all of the other hitters, but maybe it's just because in other years, like Jose Ramirez was always back in the draft. I feel like Trey Turner has always ended up back in the draft. Like 81 for him was a lot, but other than Soto, Betts, Lindor, Turner, and Harper, I don't think anyone else went over $60. So that just feels different than what we've been seeing over the last few years. I guess more guys were kept than being thrown back, which is kind of interesting with the way the price inflation has gone on the keepers. So that kind of surprised me, but I mean, I don't think it was a bad. It went a lot faster than I thought it would. We were done in 2 hours, which was kind of surprising.
All the $1 bits helps that. I think Mark's point though is one I share that I felt like the reason I felt like Soto this year, because last year I felt like the top guys would go for less. I didn't think we'd appreciate them enough. This year we probably did appreciate Soto correctly. Is that like you said with a Lindor going to last year, Trey going to last year, Freeman going into last year, uh, Ramirez was out there last year. There were more pitchers out there last year too. Like when we talked about Wheeler being a good buy, it's because Wheeler is by projections the best pitcher available, but he's not even like a top 15 pitcher. I think there was still a solid middle of guys available, but there was not guys going as top one or even late round two picks the way there have been in the last couple seasons, which made me really worried the top guys would go for too much and be hard to get. And I felt very confident going into it because we had a lot of teams with like a $100+ max bid, even though I wasn't part of it. Some of those teams would be uncomfortable leaving it. And I'd be curious if we interviewed everybody. I feel like some of them probably are because there just wasn't enough legitimate top two, 3 round players to go around this year.
Well said. Yeah, the only piece I was surprised about, I did expect the Lindors to be closer to 90. And then if you scroll down to like the O'Neill Cruz section, I expected all of those to be quite a bit higher in the 50s,
Yeah.
closer to Randy Rosarena. Um, like Wheeler, I think was a good value, but frankly, I did expect him to fall somewhere in that range. But yeah, every player basically you're showing right now, from O'Neill Cruz essentially to Ozzy Albies, I expected to be almost twice that. So I was wrong about that. I did kind of expect the breakdown towards the $1 players that we saw, but found it to be pretty extreme. Um, but yeah, I was really happy with it personally.
Well, kind of like you mentioned earlier, I think part of that happened just because Nick leaving about 50 bucks on the table. If Nick had been using every dollar, I think probably these guys all go for like three, four, $5 more, probably a couple to him. And then he can take some of the $4 or $5 guys at the end that ended up being $2 players before we got to all the dollar days.
Yeah, cutting that Chapman in half, that one player on the Rockies, cut the $15 off of him. I forget his name.
Castro.
Yeah,
Would you guys rather have Tovar or Castro? It's Castro
Tovar.
bucks more.
definitely Tovar.
Tovar.
Again, I'm not trying to be mean to Zach because I think when I wrote down picks I liked, by the way, Zach, I think Zach had the most picks I liked, but I did not like Willie Castro.
I'd rather have Tristan Casas for $10 and you get Tristan Casas for 3.
But yeah, fun draft.
Really fun.
Weird draft, but a fun one.
There were a lot of jump bids that I appreciate for the time's sake, but probably not the best. And then on the flip side, a lot of studs where people would start them at $1. It's like, okay, they're going to go for 50
You might get a
bucks.
deal. You might get a deal though.
Yeah.
What if nobody notices?
I might be a hypocrite because a couple of times I would actually punch in an amount, hit go, and I think it didn't work. It would bring them to $1. I would try to correct that as fast as I could, but yeah, a lot of really good picks in here. A lot of $1 players, and I think if you're rebuilding, that's the whole point, right? If a player is really good and you get him for $5, it kind of doesn't matter. It's going to be hard to keep them. So that's
Yeah,
why, like a player like Lawler, that's why that's such a great pick. He's going to play, and if he is good, you can keep him for the minimum.
yeah. Good job, Mark.
Thanks, Nick.
But all right, anything else you guys have?
No, I think I'm all set.
Mark, any closing words before you leave the pod for a while? Any threats, celebrations?
No, no. I think it'll be a great year. I'm excited that I'm actually able to compete instead of hoping I finish like seventh. Wish everyone the best of luck. Hope the roster stay healthy. Hope everyone stays engaged and makes moves and there's no huge discrepancies between games played and innings pitched between the top four teams and the bottom four teams. Can't wait to see the next sell-off trade that's then going to cause a domino effect of it's so funny in this league when one big trade happens, within the next 24 hours, three more are going to kick off and it's just fan tracks notification left and right for the rest of the day. But yeah, I'm so excited that baseball's back. I forgot how much time and energy this took, but I'm thrilled.
Final question I forgot to ask you. Do you think you're the favorite?
No, because I think I have the roster. I think you, Brendan, whoever, Ray, Griff, I think you guys are probably better just fantasy managers than me and are a little bit more obsessive. So it really comes down to am I gonna dig in and be making the $1, free agent bids on August 27th if I'm in second, like which one of us is going to get the guy that gets the hold that day or, gets the random win that could push you over the top. So I would not put myself as the favorite right now. But definitely top three.
I would say that's my top 3 right now, and I maybe I'm biased. I am kind of rooting for you, Mark, because we did the trade, but I do have you one, Mark.
Woo! I
Fuck
love
you.
your confidence in me.
I mean, Nick, you could do a trade with me, and then I'd root for you too.
Don't trade with Nick. No one trade with Nick.
We'll see. By the time this post, we may have new content. We'll see what happens. I would be resigned if I didn't say too. One of the most talked about in the community things from last year when we started the season is that I asked you, Mark, when you were on a preseason pod, which Mark will finish higher this year, and you said yourself. And Mark Bissigman, Hated that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I presume you think you'll finish ahead of Mark Missingman this year, right?
I do. Yeah.
Mark, there's your bulletin board material. All right, that's all I got, boys. It was fun.
That was a blast, fellas.
Cheers to baseball.
Love you guys. By the time you're seeing this, hopefully you're enjoying some opening day baseball.
Good luck, everyone.